In the following video, note some other details regarding the lives of these two faithful women, Matui Ishii and Ella Thom.
For nearly a year, I had been held in solitary confinement in a tiny, filthy, bug-infested prison cell. 5.5 years after my arrest, I was released. If we truly rely on Jehovah, really love Him, and cry out in our heart for His help, just as He did not forsake me, He will not forsake His servants.
They arrested me and took me in for questioning. An interrogator invited me to sign a document stating that I would discontinue preaching. I said, I would rather live in prison with my relationship with God intact than be free and lose His approval. My determination has been to heed the Bible admonition, trust in Jehovah and do good. I have learned that doing this leads to receiving the requests of your heart.
In 1949, Ella Thom was arrested by the communists. They took her in for questioning. She reports, forced to remove all my clothing and being watched by young police officers, I felt humiliated. Yet after I prayed to Jehovah, peace and calmness of heart came over me. Next, I was put in a tiny cell where I could not even lie down. I was taken out only for interrogations. The officers would say, "We aren't asking you to deny the existence of God. Just stop your stupid preaching. You can have a promising future." And they would threaten, quote, "Do you want to live or do you want to die with your God on the fields of Siberia?"
Well, Gerrit Lösch knows a lot about threatening, doesn't he? As a governing body member, he is essentially threatening everybody who doesn't follow him or recognize his authority with imminent destruction at Armageddon. But here he is delivering the final item on this symposium: imitate women of strong faith, modern day examples. So whereas the previous symposium items have dealt with Bible characters who were women, this one is talking about modern day examples. In other words, people from Jehovah's Witness history who showed faith. And here they're telling the story of Matui Ishii from Japan and Ella Thom from, I think, Finland, both 20th century examples. So women who were living in dark times in human history, where there was far less societal progress in terms of religious tolerance than we see now. And yes, it was deplorable the way these women were treated, you know, being stripped naked and seemingly deliberately humiliated. You have to condemn that. And I've been very clear in condemning any mistreatment of Jehovah's Witnesses, whether it's nowadays in Russia with Jehovah's Witnesses being rounded up, thrown in jail cells, kept in pre-trial detention, and in some cases beaten or tortured, or whether it's historic examples of Jehovah's Witnesses being persecuted. But as I've said many times before, these stories are not being told to highlight the general problem of persecution of religious minorities so that we can do something meaningful about it. These stories are being told, well, very clearly in this case, to stir up loyalty, to stir up faith in believing Jehovah's Witnesses and give them this feeling that their religion is unique Of course, they're going to be persecuted if they are disciples of Jesus. So they need to be faithful even under the most trying circumstances. And here we've dug up 2 examples from the 20th century when society was more backwards, when there was less tolerance of religious minorities. And we're going to use these examples to extract more faith and more loyalty from Jehovah's Witnesses living now in the 21st century. In other words, I don't have a problem with Gerrit Lösch telling these stories, and in fact, I think these stories need to be told. What I have a problem with is the obvious motivation, namely to terrify Jehovah's Witnesses into thinking that Satan's world is out to get them, and emotionally manipulate them by suggesting that stories such as these are evidence that Jehovah's Witnesses are uniquely chosen by God.